Hello and welcome to another edition of the Skycast from Fantasy Football Scout, a sort of Sky Sports fantasy football version of the FPL focused Scoutcast. Manchester City assets look to be surplus to requirements for a while Leicester, Wolves and Liverpool players are very much in demand. Changes have already been made for some, but this game week could see plenty more looking to use those precious remaining transfers on their post-overhaul team. My name is Joe and joining me is Luke. Luke, how are you?
I'm good, Joe. Yeah, this it should be an interesting one because, like you say, it's been a few weeks now since the overhaul, and it's probably the first time many of us will start to be looking at making some swaps. Some of us might have planned up to about now, so but not been too much activity till now. But it probably all starts from here, I would say, for quite a few people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm starting. We're going to talk about our own teams, and we've got two teams. And one of my teams, I'm thinking of being really cautious and not wasting transfers. And the other one, anything goes at the moment. So let's see which tactic fares well. Let's have a look at the fixtures that we've got coming up for game week 30. As we can see, we got Norwich against Leicester on Friday, single match there, and then Saturday we've got the likes of my team Brighton against Palace. I'm sure no one's considering them for the captaincy, but Liverpool against Watford looks to be the main one there, and then we've got Everton against Manchester United. Some options there. Spurs against Wolves, and obviously Wolves are in demand. So just going through those game days, we've got three sets of fixtures there. So looking ahead as well, but also with those in mind. What are your plans for your teams for the captaincy? So yeah, who are you captaining on each of those days?
Well, I'll be having Vardy on the first game, Leicester versus Norwich. I still think he's probably the best pick. Just on potential, I guess, more than anything. You know, Vardy's not been having a great time of it of late, so you could argue that form-wise, it's probably not a great idea. But we all know what Vardy can do, and I think Norwich kind of changes things a little bit. I mean, if you can't score against Norwich, and I think the next game's really good as well. Villa, yeah, home to Villa. I mean, in those two, if you can't get anything from those, then I guess you can finally put the nail in the coffin. But I'll be backing in for that game. Loads of other options, though, for Leicester. As we know, we can talk through some of those. I think they're in some of the questions later, but we all know about Soyuncu, Pereira, the defenders, Barnes. There's lots of options for Leicester for that game. Going into Saturday, I mean, any time Liverpool play, I don't think you can even consider any other options, really. So basically, Liverpool are playing Watford, so it's whether you do Van Dijk or Salah or Mane, isn't it? Yeah. Pretty much the argument. I mean, Trent's throwing his hat into the ring as well, actually. So yeah, anyone from Liverpool basically is good for that day. And then we move on to Sunday the 1st, which is a bit tricky because some rather evenly matched teams, really. And these are always quite hard to call. You know, you've got Everton against Man United and you've got Spurs versus Wolves. So I don't think there's really any standout, this guy is going to be the main man on that day. I think there's going to be a high mix of different captains on that day. You could argue Richarlison for Everton or Calvert-Lewin is good. You could argue your new boy Fernandes, who put in we knew that would be the game home to Watford, that he would get the man of the match, and there he was with it.
Yeah.
And then you've obviously got Spurs and Wolves. Spurs decimated by injury, so a lot of people will probably have Jimenez, but then we've got the issue of Traore as well, that a lot of people use for their Wolves cover, now not starting very much. So there'll be quite a mix on that day. Currently, I'll have Jimenez in one team and Richarlison in the other, probably, at the moment.
Okay, well, with those in mind, let's have a look at your team. So this is both your teams are sort of around the same place in the rankings, really. So either of them could shoot up the rankings. They're both within the top 2,000 at the moment. Is that right?
Yeah, so like I did before, my team that was about 800th, I took a big risk with, and it's sort of now dropped heavily as a result of that. And my team that was much further behind, I sort of played a bit safer, and as a result, that's done really well. So if I'd have played safer in my main team, I'd probably be very, very close to the top sort of 300-400 now. But hey, I went for it. I don't think I'm going to win it this season, so that's what I went for. So yeah, they're both my teams now. I don't have an A or a B. They're basically the exact same point score.
In contrast with me, we'll put my teams up a bit later. I've got one that's sort of hovering around the 1,400 mark. Happy days. But the other one's sort of like nowhere, like 7,000 or something. So that's the one.
The fun team.
That's the fun team. But also it might be the one where I actually hold the transfers back. Just to experiment to see if I can just blitz it towards the end. Let's just run through this team then that we got up on the screen. You've gone for a Liverpool quartet. in defence. So you've gone for a 4-3-3. You've got Alisson, and then you've got Gomez, Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold, and Sionju there. Midfield, Richarlison, Traore, Grealish, and then you've got Vardy, Salah, and Abraham up top. So looking at that, from what you were saying about captaincy as well, you've got Vardy there, so you're fully in place there for that Friday night. You've got all sorts of Liverpool you can go for, and then you're going for Richarlison as your captain on Sunday. Traore could be an option. What are we going to do with Traore? It looks like he might have lost his place, but it's a tricky price to replace. You need to invest elsewhere, really. So
yeah. Just before I touch on that, I think I've got a little bit unlucky with the Tammy Abraham thing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, I bought him in to basically cover the captain day that he had earlier, and then he's got this good run coming up. He's obviously very cheap at 8.3 million, and then Chelsea's form, his injury, him not starting, it's basically been a no-go. And then I think there's rumours that he may have pulled up last night as well.
I think it was basically in the warm down. He looked a bit limpy. So literally no confirmation of that, only that people observing him coming off the pitch towards the end were looking like he was a bit limpy.
Right. Okay, so the reason why I mentioned that is, well, firstly, I think it was pretty bad luck there, but at the same time, depending on news of what happens with him, if he's going to be out for a little while, it may affect what I do with Traore, so I might end up doing a double move. Okay. But if Tammy's okay, I'll be sticking with him. And then the Traore thing, it's an interesting one. I mean, I'm not overly chuffed about the fact that he's not starting, obviously. That's not ideal, because in this team, he was my Wolves cover. As you can see, I don't have Jimenez, I don't have a defender. So I was kind of relying on him to play. But I'm of the opinion that their games are so good, he's been so good, that eventually I think he will start to get his place back, possibly. And even if he doesn't, he'll be coming off the bench, where I still think he's that kind of player where if he gets 20, 30 minutes towards the end, with his speed against tiring legs, you would have thought he could still do something. And then it's really the lack of other options around his price. I haven't really got the flexibility. I literally have zero money in the bank. So he's 6.9 million. And with this formation, I could only, because you can only have 3 midfielders as a minimum. I can only swap him to another midfielder. So who I would actually go for 6.9 million or below, I don't really know. So I think I'm just going to stick. I don't know what your thoughts are on Traore.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm gonna stick as well. Let's put my main team up then, since we're this is the team that there's 1,400 or so. It's got Traore in there. I've gone for Henderson, Van Dijk, Alexander-Arnold, Sionju, Baldock, Traore, Grealish, Fernandes, Salah, Jimenez, and Mane up top. So I'm gone fully on for the sort of Salah Mane attack on Liverpool, because that sort of gives me the option of which one do I captain. And I'm thinking, even though Salah has the little C for captaincy on the picture there, I think that's a leftover from last week. So I'd be thinking of Van Dijk and Mane for the captaincy, I think, this time around. Salah, I think I'm right in saying, has not scored away from home when Mane starts at all this season, and in fact for a big chunk of last season. So that says to me Mane or Van Dijk, I think, for the captaincy. I think I have to have Salah. It's one of those swords and shields things. But going to your point about Traore, I've got Jimenez in, so I don't need that Wolves cover, but he is tricky to go out. I've noticed that I can remove Baldock and Grealish, who both skip a fixture, and I'm not sure I want to keep long term anyway. I can remove them for Harvey Barnes and Pereira of Leicester and just go massive on Leicester, but not with Vardy. So there's the differential there. I've got Pereira and Barnes as the captaincy choices. Sionju, if they get double Leicester defence as well, could be quite a good move. I just think that it just looks so. We were talking before we came on air. It's when you make a move and it's like on the nose, you can do that move. It's sort of written in the stars. But yeah, going back to your original question, what we could do with Traore? He's going to stay probably.
Yeah, and we just had Planet FPL drop in as well. So James, he's into his Sky. He said he's holding Traore as well. And he says he expects him to start on Sunday. Obviously, he's a Spurs fan, so I guess targeting their lack of pace at the back is what he means there. So that's reassuring that we might get that. Yeah, I love those moves, by the way, Joe. Really, really like that, because your team will essentially then be Liverpool, Wolves, and Leicester, which is fantastic fixtures
Yeah.
for all of them. Well, Liverpool, you need Liverpool, so you basically got Leicester and Wolves, the two best sort of fixture coverage for moving forward. So I think that should work out pretty well. I'm pretty jealous of that, to be honest with you.
Oh, cheers. But one thing I do each week, I look at the sort of captains I'm looking at for the weeks ahead. And this is my list. So this isn't listing out the fixtures, so you can guess they've got good fixtures if I've listed them here. But yeah, Leicester, obviously, against Norwich. So Pereira, Barnes, Vardy, Sionju, take your pick. Whichever you've got, captain them. Then I'm going for Liverpool, Salah, Mane or Van Dijk. Then there's that choice, Jimenez, Richarlison, if you've got him, Fernandes. So back to Liverpool again. So you can see what's the pattern that's emerging. Leicester and Liverpool and Wolves are looking key at the moment, and Fernandes very useful. Then there's KDB or Richarlison. I don't have Richarlison, and I don't have KDB either. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do that day, but I'll have about 11 transfers left by that stage.
Well, you have Fernandes, right? So Man United, Man City, is that what you mean?
Yeah, I could go for that. I don't quite fancy Fernandes. I think I fancy De Bruyne more for that one, but yeah. I would just captain Fernandes, but I don't have what I would say an optimal captain that day. And then Leicester again, then KDB. So KDB is emerging as someone I probably want in a few weeks, possibly. Jimenez, Wolves, Liverpool again. There's that tricky Spurs West Ham game. I'm ignoring that probably. And then Liverpool again, then Leicester again. You see the theme: Liverpool, Leicester, Wolves. They are the absolute key men. Fernandes and lovely backup. KDB is one I potentially want, but not just yet. I've got a few captaincy days away from that, so that's what I'm looking at.
I think that Spurs West Ham game is. I think that is the game week. Correct me if I'm wrong. Where we're probably going to get lots of blanks in that game week, so that won't go ahead, or very unlikely to go ahead. We obviously still don't know for certain. So that game week, which I think is 31 in FPL. I can't remember what it is in Sky, but. Is going to be decimated, so we don't really know what we can do up to that point, really. But just sort of looking a little bit further forward, I don't know if you've realised, Joe, that there's West Ham now. We had the fixture release. West Ham now sort of pop out for a couple of individual days and even offer a couple of 2 for 0s.
Is it West Ham Newcastle?
So you got West Ham Newcastle on Friday the 10th of April. Just before that, West Ham play on the Sunday the 5th of April. So you could bring them in after for someone on a Saturday, for example. And then the following week, they're at home to Burnley. After that, and then they're away to Norwich. So they start to have like a fairly decent run where you could consider home to Watford after that. You could consider a player. The problem being is who the hell do you get from West Ham because they're so bad.
In terms of saves, I guess Fabianski. If you think that form will follow fixtures, I would probably. I don't know. I would look at their cheap ones there. It's good. I mean, I hadn't thought of that. I've just dismissed West Ham. But yeah, you're right. That is a good time to get a West Ham player, except I don't want one long term. So I do want him for that period. Snodgrass possibly. Antonio possibly. Maybe
that's
a defender.
it, isn't it?
Maybe.
I think the only one I look through their bonus. I look through, the price points. I've been looking at them a lot to see who I would get, and essentially, I think my answer is still coming down to no one. But Fabianski still appeals. He's been fantastic in Sky for a number of seasons now, so he's got that history behind him. Now, given his performance at the weekend, it feels a bit risky to go with him. But I suppose he's kind of coming back from injury fairly recently, so maybe he'll step up. But he has got that passing bonus in his locker. Do you think we're going to keep the clean sheets? I don't think they can manage it. And then it's Antonio takes the shots, but then Antonio's a risky player to bring in. I think he's a nice price, 8.2 million midfielder. He does actually get shots tier 1 quite often. Problem is he's so injury prone that he's the kind of player you'll bring in for one of those games, and then he'll get injured, and then you've obviously brought him into that 3 or 4 run potentially, and it can really bite you. So I'm still not sold on whether it's worth it. Snodgrass is probably the only other one I could think of, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm looking at that sorry list of them. I mean, this is what it's like for those that are perhaps been used to FPL and are new to the Sky game. This is what we discuss in Sky. This is the sort of thing. Shall we get Snodgrass in 6 weeks' time? But that's basically what happens in Sky management. You have to plan that way, and the prices are fixed. I think I've had enough of looking at my main team there, but But let's have a look at your second team, because that's got some more interesting characters in there as well. So you've got Aurier in, so you have a bit of Spurs coverage. Ings is there. One of the reasons I didn't get Ings is because I couldn't see a day I wanted to captain him. And but
he did offer a couple of differential games, but he wasn't needed as a captain on that same day. So
but Jimenez. So I'll just go through that. You've got Alisson, Van Dijk, Robertson, Aurier, and Alexander-Arnold. So a nice bunch of Liverpool players there. But you've got Mahrez, Deulofeu, Traore, Grealish, Ings, and Jimenez. So a lot of different players there.
Basically went for differentials on this team more than anything, as the teams try and catch up. It's not really worked out. The midfield, I mean, the midfield trio of Deulofeu, Traore, and Grealish has been pretty much a nightmare. Obviously, my Liverpool back four has made me cling on. Got unlucky with Aurier. Finally got benched for I think it's the first time in about 16 games in a row or something. So, in the past, he's always had that hanging over his head, but he looked like he was basically nailed on. I'm hoping it was just a rest. James is in the chat. Maybe he can tell us. Because obviously he's in there because he gets tackles and everything else as well. He's got the attacking output. In fact, he's actually saying here, I don't know how to even say that name, Nkangia at 4.5, if he can keep his place. Was he the one who replaced Aurier? I can only assume he was. So that's a worry if he feels like he could replace Aurier. For worry for me, because I've got Aurier in my team. But if he is 4.5 million, that's a very enticing price. So one to keep an eye on, I guess. But in that team, basically, my plan move was Mahrez actually worked out as a better pick than Aguero over the two games that people were having their City players in for. Because Aguero obviously started both but did nothing, and Mahrez only started one but actually got man of the match and an assist in his last game. So he actually worked out as a better pick. He'll be coming out for Vardy. I've got the exact money to do it, so that will be a 4-3-3 team. It just leaves me with Deulofeu, Traore, and Grealish in midfield, which I'm not overly happy about. So Deulofeu is 8.2 million, and Antonio is 8.2 million. So in that team, he could be the one that I move to later on down the line. Oh, and Kanye is West Ham. Okay, didn't even realise. See, Aurier just a rest. Brilliant. Okay. Yeah, my mistake. So hopefully Aurier will be back in and he can start to do something.
I mean, looking up this future West Ham game is intriguing because, I mean, as we found out with Richarlison, if you can nail a captaincy on one of those tricky days like that, you can get 30 points over a lot of rivals. So that's what you're after, really. Mark Noble, old warhorse in Sky and FPL, on penalties 7.8 and Snodgrass 7.7. So somehow I'd probably be looking to move Traore, possibly, who will increasingly become like Willy Won't He Play, 6.9. If I can find 8.8 somewhere, that looks quite good. And as you said, Fabianski might be the easiest one. For those with Alisson and maybe
I think a lot will be ignoring, won't they? I just want to also flag out Phil's in the chat. Phil, he bought in Jota and captained him, I think, and as did someone else I know, who obviously put in a wonder performance. And at the very beginning of the season for Sky, when we all got presented with Jota as I think he's 8.2. He's around 8.2 anyway. 8.2 midfielder, given his end of last season. Everyone had him in their teams. I had him, nearly everyone. He looked like it was too good to be true. Basically playing up front for Wolves. I know they had Europa, but that price just looks so good for him. And he's been obviously very, very underwhelming. But suddenly he's potentially back as an option for their good games. So he's another one I could bring in for Deulofeu. It just leaves me with triple Wolves. But well done to anyone who took that punt. When he's playing up front in a 2, he is just a great player to have. So it's just whether he continues in that position would be my worry. But yeah, just wanted to flag that up. That well done anyone who got Jota. Differential, that's the kind of thing you're talking about. He's hit like 30, 40 points as a captain potentially, and then which no one else would have got on that game day, because I don't think any of the popular options really returned. Jimenez got like 6 points, I think. So that was it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm even though Jota would have been the one to get over Jimenez, I'm happy I've got Jimenez in. Because his underlying stats are still very strong. He still looks the most secure option. With Jota and with Traore, you never know which are going to play. I don't know. I just don't know with the formation from week to week. But with Jimenez, you just know that he's going to play.
Yeah, indeed. I think him, Doherty, and Bowley are basically your three secure ones, and Traore and Jota are now your kind of differential punt.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
Traore's not a differential, but he's kind of a punt at the moment if you're going to captain him, because you don't know where he's going to play.
Looking Grealish there. Looks like Grealish may stay in that one.
I think so. I know that the returns haven't been great of late, but we've talked about it so many times. He's still the best player on the pitch every time he takes to it,
Yeah.
and I'm confident that he can still get the odd point here or there. The games aren't great. It's definitely a concern. I'm just going to monitor it for now. I don't have the amount of transfers that I would like to be able to do anything about it. If I'm sat here with 15, 20, you've already mentioned the likes of Barnes, people like that, then I would just straight away go and do that for the good run. I mean, I think you're going to be up on those points for definite, but will it be enough to say that I use one of my precious transfers that could be sort of 30, 40 points with the right captain later down the line? I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, the thing with Grealish, I think you're right. He's one of those players that if you have got limited transfers, you're starting to look at once we start getting down to like 5, 6, you're starting to really almost run out. So you're looking at those fixtures, and who do you want? You just want the talisman for teams, ones that aren't massively injury prone, that are just going to play. They're obviously in the running for man of the match because they're the best player on the pitch often. And Grealish fits that bill. If I had much less transfers, I would not remove Grealish. He would just stay, and I'd be happy for him the rest of the season. But with 12 transfers, I think it's I can move him on. I'm going to put my second team up because like your second team, it's got a few different things going on there. So this one, I went for that Liverpool quartet at the back, which is great when they all get a clean sheet, but kind of half good when you just get the attacking returns from the likes of Robertson, Alexander-Arnold. So I've got it's a 4-4-2 this one. I've got Alisson, Van Dijk, Robertson, Alexander-Arnold and Baldock, Richarlison, Barnes, Grealish, Mount, Jimenez and Mane. So no Salah there, and I'm all hopes on Mane. And that one there, I don't really want to do much with it at the moment. It's not that I'm happy with those players. It's this team's about 7,000 in the world. So my second team, it's full of some differentials there. The likes of Mount, for example. Richarlison still is in a way. And I've gone for that Mane over Salah captaincy. So there's not much I could do with that. I think I wrote down what I'm possibly considering. I think it needs more Leicester. That's the only thing. Robertson to Pereira just seems too sideways, really. Is a possibility. Yeah. Baldock to Sionju once again just seems a bit like might get 6 or 7 points, but then Baldock might get.
I'd be sitting tight all day. I'd be sitting tight all day on that team. I think it's nicely positioned with the Mount and Barnes, because Mount's obviously got great games coming up. I had Tammy Abraham for their good games coming up. Now I'm not even sure whether he'll fit or he'll even start. So Mount, his points have dropped off, but we mustn't forget at that price for that run of fixtures, he's still, I think, a pretty good option, especially if they're playing this new wing-back system where he's sort of almost inside central off of Giroud a little bit. I think he's still got some potential there. So I like him. In that team, the only thing I'd be looking at, I'd be keeping Baldock probably as well, is like to the Grealish. Can you move Grealish for his bad games for a little bit maybe and then bring him back? But that's an argument as well, because you've got most of the people that I would replace him with, like Barnes and Mount. So midfield's such a dearth of positions. The only thing maybe you could move Grealish to Pereira, for example, and play 5-3-2 for a bit. Something like that.
I kind of like that, and I might do that. But I think you said it's a sit tight game at the moment with the way the fixtures are. I've got a bit of Liverpool. I've got Liverpool. I've got Leicester. I've got Wolves. They're the 3 ones you need coverage, and I've got a few little alternative options. But I'm thinking, down the line, I've highlighted KDB as a player I'm probably going to want back. I think Aubameyang can be useful as well as a nice handy differential captain. He may not be the best captain on paper on the day, but he's the maverick differential one that's going to propel you up the rankings, hopefully. And so I look at those things. And I think, I might save my transfer so I can use, say, 3 or 4 in one go, and have a sort of a mini overhaul at some point. But as you said, at the moment, I'm fine. So this may be useful to other people who've got similar teams, similar types of players in. And I think it shows you in Sky, sometimes the best thing to do is absolutely bugger all. Do absolutely nothing. and just sit on that. We've had some questions from the community on. I'm going to put the main thumbnail up because obviously I don't like to look at my second team that's about 7,000 in the world all the time. So I'll just put this up. And so we've had some questions. So Benny Blanco asks, is Pereira enough coverage for Leicester's great fixtures? He's only got 10 transfers left, so I'm presuming he's got no Leicester at the moment, but he's thinking getting one in. Is Pereira the best? Or he may already have Pereira, but he doesn't want any more. Yeah. Can you get by with just Pereira?
I'm so on the fence on this. I'm a big fan of Pereira. I've talked to him up a lot, even pre-season, as just a great pick overall. You know, if Leicester failed to keep a clean sheet, which they've been doing quite a bit, although they have got a couple in the last few weeks, he still obviously gets that bonus. So I think he is a more than adequate captain. My big worry is just the fact that the games are so good, and it just looks like the kind of games Vardy could get 2 or 3 goals in if he can return to form, which is the if at the moment. Can he return to form? Now, when I watch him play, I don't really have that many concerns. Like he's probably missed a few chances where you'd have backed him to score when he was bang at it, but things can change so quickly. At the end of the day, if form was constantly the same, this would be the easiest game in the world. People drop in and out of form at a moment's notice. It does happen. So with those games, I would back Vardy. I think he's got penalties. He'll have shots on target potentially. He hasn't been great for that of late, but I would do everything he can to get Vardy. I think it makes sense to try and get Vardy just for this really good run of games, because I think he's going to be heavily captain. But Pereira, he is a good alternative, and at the end of the day, if they're keeping the clean sheets and Vardy doesn't return his form, then suddenly he's a better pick. So I know it's very much on the fence, but I would slightly edge to Vardy, I think, if you can make it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Pereira's great, and it'd probably be my captain. I think if you already got or can get the likes of Barnes, even Sionju going for that double Liverpool defence. A lot depends with did I say Liverpool? I meant Leicester defence. When a lot depends on Ndidi or how they're shaped up in midfield, because he helps the attack flow, also protects the back as well. He's that good, sort of. They're very good at picking the sort of Kante type figures at Leicester. So that's going to depend on a lot of things there. But I just think Pereira, you're going to get a lot of the tier bonuses, the passing, the tackling, but also you're going to get possibly goals and assists as well out of him.
Yeah, and I mean, against Norwich and Villa, the next 2 games in a row, you would expect Leicester, like, if you're being slightly pessimistic, I would say that 50%, 1 clean sheet out of 2. I think that's fair to say. I mean, you'd back them for 2 probably, but factor that in. If Pereira can get bonus in both of them, which is he's far within he's capable of, and then you maybe even back him for 1 attacking return in that, suddenly you've got a really good player there. It's just my fear is the fact that Vardy could be hitting hat-tricks in those games. Hasn't looked like he can, but I don't think you can really judge a game against City for any team. I mean, they've done okay. If City turn up, you're basically going to lose. That's just a factor that affects anyone, apart from possibly Liverpool.
I mean, I'm in both FPL and Sky. I'm playing a wait and see with Vardy. This is a great indication. Obviously, if you can't score in this game, then that's another. I shall wait a bit longer and may never get him in. But I think I can wait if I really stock up on other Leicester assets. But if I didn't stock up on those other Leicester assets, I would be a bit concerned. I think getting Vardy in now is one of those it's make or break decisions really, because it's a precious transfer in Sky. But because there's no price changes, you can wait a week. He's not going to suddenly become unaffordable if you got the price point to do that. But I think with Vardy, if you ignore him and go for the likes of Pereira, and Pereira ends up with some kind of 15-point, 12-point haul, and Vardy blanks and gets 2 points, then
it's a gutting feeling.
That's a gutting feeling. But then, as you said, Vardy can get a hat-trick any time.
I think generally the sensible play here is if you cover. At the end of there's a lot of luck involved in Sky when you factor in the captains. We have so many of them, and there can be massive swings. You can get in Jimenez as your captain, and then Jota goes mental. Now that's all good for the people that have got Jota and they've done that extra bonus. But in general, covering the most popular and probably the best pick on paper, nearly every time you can, is going to benefit you across the whole course of the season. So, people will say the fear factor, but having Vardy as captain over these next 2 games basically means that you're going to do pretty well. Like overall, you'll probably keep with people and probably go slightly up over quite a few. Pereira's obviously that option where you could suddenly get a massive rank jump. But if you apply that logic for over multiple seasons, multiple days, if you're always doing the most sensible thing there, then you're probably going to come out on top. So I'll always slightly edge towards that in Sky, I think.
Yeah, I think with my setup, really, I don't really want to get rid of Salah, Mane or Jimenez up front. But I think if you've got a City asset with, for example, Mahrez, if you can stretch Mahrez to Vardy, KDB or Aguero, I think that's a great move. It's a great move because I don't think City premiums are needed at all for a long time.
No. Probably not.
Go for them. We had some more questions. FPL Partridge, who we featured last week in his first Sky week ever, is getting the hang of knowing his team sheet early on. He swapped out Ali and Perez for Richarlison and Giroud. What about that? You talk about getting Giroud, but this guy, first week of playing Sky, gets Giroud in.
Yeah.
In the first week, Giroud starts and scores for what, 2 years? Amazing. He wants to know what is a decent score. So he knows, because he plays FPL, that basically 60 points is, you can count yourself as having a good score in FPL in a single game week. It's decent. But what about Sky? What would you consider a decent score? I guess it depends on how many captaincy days you've got. But what are you happy with?
It's very tricky actually to answer when I saw this question down, because we all know that with FPL, I mean, in my head, it's sort of 50 points and above is a fairly good week. They're very samey, the weeks in FPL, whereas in Sky, like you say, there are individual days. Sometimes you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday captain, for example, and suddenly things change. But at the end of the day, if you've got 11 players playing, they all get 2 points, you're on 22, then you factor in, say, 3 captains, you're suddenly on about 30 points as like basically bare minimum of everyone just turning up and doing nothing.
Yeah.
So then I like to think, well, let's say you hit at least one captain and a couple of your players do okay. So I'd say it's a little bit higher than FPL as a result of that. So around 60 to 65, if you've got that number or above, you've probably done pretty well. But then all it takes is one very popular captain pick like a Salah to hit 1 or 2, and suddenly they got 40 points on their own, and that becomes hard to judge. So it's very tricky. But as a base, I'd probably say, 65 and over probably.
Yeah.
But
so, for example, his first week, he got around 80. And that's more or less what I got in my teams.
I think that was very good for this week, to be honest.
I consider that I did well, I think, with that. And so if he got about that time around, he considered well. This coming game week, I would say similar again. Depends what everyone else gets, I guess. But I would look at that, and I think if I can end up with this game week with 80, I can hit a captaincy a couple of times, 2 out of 3. I'd be pretty happy. Zoomers Bloomers asked what is a good rank. So he's got, now this is interesting because it's a bit like my second team. He's got like a zombie team he hasn't really looked at. It's packed with transfers, and it's 22k in the world. I don't know how many people are still playing, but 22,000 in the world he is. Is it worth bringing it back to life for the running? Well, my immediate answer is yes. You've got loads of transfers. Just see how far you can get with it. That's what I'm doing with my second team.
Forget the rank, that. Just if you've got all the transfers, have some fun, play with it. I mean, I don't know how experienced he is. If he's got a zombie team and he's just sat there, then he probably hasn't had his heart fully on it. So just learn the ropes and have fun with it, I would say, and don't really worry about the rank. At the end of the day, he will undoubtedly rise. Even if he's transferring in players that are bad, he'll still do well just for the sheer fact that we've got so many people on like 7 transfers or below. Some people have used all of theirs. So as Sky sort of experienced players will know, these last few months can see massive rank jumps for everyone. All of us that are sort of within the top 1-2k, just playing the sensible game from here on in, even if you don't pick particularly good players, you will continue to see your rank rise. Like it will happen. There's so many people up there that just have spanked all their transfers. So go for it, have fun.
Yeah, and it's
definitely, you ain't going to win though.
That's the way. I mean, with FPL, I guess. I mean, if you've used all your chips and they've done well, then you'll really high up the rankings. But the only way is down after that, really. If you've got no chips, and the same thing in Sky. If you've only got 1 or 2 transfers left, you're just going to fall at this stage.
I mean, Phil's in the chat there saying that he's the one who captained Jota. He's gone from 44k to 17k in recent weeks, so he's had a 20,000 roughly, or 25,000 roughly jump there. Just in the last few weeks off the back of stuff like Jota captain. So that will continue to rise, I would have thought, as long as he's got some swaps there.
Yeah, definitely. Just before we go, just want to check in on those that are getting bonus points as well. Some Some names I'm not interested in, and some names I'm possibly interested in. So this is the last 4 game week. So it's just a rough guide really, because it's looking at recent. Obviously, the game weeks are different in FPL and Sky, but nevertheless, if Brighton were in West Ham's position, as in they had some nice single game days, we're interested in. Proper and Dunk are doing well for bonus at the moment. So there we go. Van Dijk is still there, racking up those bonus, doing very well. Fred as well, but I think if you're looking for a Manchester United player, you've got to have Fernandes, because he's involved in all the set pieces. He craving assists. He's on penalties. I wouldn't bother with Fred, to be honest. Dubravka's interesting.
I think that's a little bit harsh.
I'm harsh on Fred.
Yeah, it's a little bit harsh. He's the bonus. He's doing well for that. I mean, he's doing better. He's exact same price as Grealish. So if you look at the last sort of 4, 5, 6 weeks, Fred versus Grealish, Fred's winning. So I still think he's reasonable. But like you say, you're always going to be sort of wishing you had Fernandes instead, really. And that's it. But,
some other names there. Dubravka for Newcastle. I think you mentioned that Newcastle have got one of the single game days coming up in April against West Ham.
Yeah, they have. They've still got good games overall, and they've still got a couple. I think maybe possibly 2, but definitely 1 captain day. And he gets bonus all the time, like you can see there. I saw a couple of guys, Sky teams, who did that Oval team, and they picked Dubravka, and I was sort of questioning that in my mind, but I think it's been a pretty smart move, actually.
Yeah, I think so too. Patricio as well is getting bonus for Wolves. So we think Wolves are going to keep clean sheets and he's going to get bonus. Well, there's your 10-point man, just like that. So that's an interesting one. Fabianski is there. It's nice to see him. So we're talking about West Ham, so I'm going to store that in my mind. And when it comes to be West Ham time, I think Fabianski in goal could be the nice, easy solution. And there's a few other names there. Jorginho is not really the right price when you've got others at Chelsea.
No.
A bit cheaper, but nevertheless, he's there. They're the only ones I'm really interested in. Some Man City might, when you're looking further down the line for Man City, the likes of Rodri or Walker, but at this stage, if transfers are desperate and you need to get a Man City player in, well, it's going to be KDB or Aguero, isn't it?
Yeah, Rodri does really interest me, because when he came to the league and he was, I think he's 8.5 from this, totally from memory, he's around that price. I thought that's a pretty good price for him, considering what players we've had in that role in the past have managed to achieve. You expected him to get passes and tackles nearly every game, almost like that Busquets player. You just expect to be hitting ridiculous numbers. And he didn't really start off that way for Rodri. He struggled. And then obviously we had the fact that he moved to centre-back. He's been moved around a lot. There's been a little bit of rotation. But he is a player at that price who, if he's on the field and playing DM, is actually fairly good value, I think, overall. So he's similar to what Fred is. So he is. The added factor, like I say, is if you don't really want Man City players, but you still kind of want one as a backup for a captain here or there, he's an option, considering the dearth of centre midfielders.
Also, he's got a goal in him, the odd goal in him, and
he can smash a ball, can't he? Yeah. So
Zoomers Bloomers was asking about that. Should he revive his zombie team? Well, these are the sort of players you could get in. You could pack it out with some, because when we start wanting Man City again, not just yet, you could just pack your team out with Man City, with the whole Man City team, and we'll go for the likes of Rodri that are going to be very low owned. But in the meantime, I think we covered all the questions there. Thanks so much for those who joined us in the live chat as well. It's been great hearing from you, especially Phil there with getting Jota in. Well done on that. Great move. But for now, Luke, thanks so much for joining me, and good luck with the game week this weekend.
Cheers, mate. No problem. See you next week, and good luck as usual. See you guys.
Goodbye.